Welcome to the Pot Live Podcast. I'm your host, Lenny G, and I can't believe it. We've already broken through 100 episodes. We want to thank you, the listeners, thousands of you that have sent beautiful comments, beautiful notes to us. Thank you for listening. We hope you enjoy it. This next year, we're going to bring you the thought leaders, entertainers, trailblazers, CEOs of all the cannabis companies you want to hear from. People that are inventing new products, people that are bringing this cannabis industry to the mainstream. We are going to offer you education, value, and entertainment. Thanks for listening and enjoy the show.
Looking for the only one-stop online platform in the cannabis industry? Then you have to check out MJ.com. MJ has it all. The latest news and trends, exclusive original content such as the MJ CEO interview series featuring celebrities and business leaders, and best of all, delivery of your favorite cannabis products straight to your front door. That's right, MJ.com now offers statewide delivery of your favorite cannabis brands directly to your home or office in California. Check out MJ.com today.
Welcome to another episode of the Pot.Live podcast. I'm your host, Lenny G, and today our special guest is Mr. Adam Goers. He is the VP of Corporate Affairs for Columbia Care. Columbia Care is a multi-state operator bringing quality expertise and trust to cannabis. They put patients and people first by providing a portfolio of high-quality cannabis-based health and wellness solutions, leveraging data and research to fuel innovation and improving access to cannabis and plant-based solutions. Adam, welcome to the show.
Great to be with you, Len. Thanks for having me on.
Of course. So give everyone a little background of who is Adam and how did you get into the cannabis industry? Let's start there and then we'll jump into Columbia Care.
Well, great. Well, I've been involved in the cannabis industry for almost 5 years now, and originally saw the promise of, like all of us, many of us, what cannabis can do to help those of us that are suffering from debilitating conditions. And so originally a partner with Columbia Care in a number of our markets on the East Coast and really helping develop those markets. And now have been with the company, as I said, for almost 5 years. And we're in many more markets now throughout the country and really are focused both on our core medical mission, but also on health and wellness customers and those in the adult use space that are just looking for a better experience and to improve their lives.
Let's talk now. I wanted to go over the timeline kind of how Columbia Care has grown over the last few years. So let's talk pre-2020 in this crazy year that we're all in. Pre-2020, over the last couple of years, how did you ramp up to scale the business? What state did you start in? What states are you in currently?
Sure. Well, Columbia Care got started even before my time in Washington, D.C. Our co-founder, Nick Vita, was the first licensee in the District of Columbia and really grew from there into Arizona and into the East Coast with Massachusetts and New York and Pennsylvania and Illinois and on. And really, if there's a good cannabis market out there, Columbia Care is part of it and really focused on the segment, which is really quality and trust in your product. And that's so important for both medical patients, as I mentioned, but also those in the adult use space that are looking for something to help improve their lives.
And VP of Corporate Affairs, what does that role entail? What do you do for the company on a daily basis, on a yearly basis?
Well, a lot of what I do is help the company grow into new markets. So when a state, legalizes medical or adult use, we look for the way to get involved in that state and bring together all the stakeholders that are important to help grow a business, as well as a lot of our external public affairs work. So how we're interacting with stakeholders, both in the states, whether that's to help improve a medical program or that's to bring about, a fair, just, and equitable adult use cannabis industry in the state, or in Washington, D.C., helping move forward, progress with the Cannabis Trade Federation as the vice chair of one of the leading national trade organizations, all the work we're doing on a federal basis to pass legislation like the MORE Act.
Yeah, and the reason I ask you that is we do have a lot of small business owners that listen to our show, and I love to get details of the different roles of our guests. So thanks for sharing that. So now that you mentioned legalization, let's jump right into that hot button topic. I was always, before all the craziness of this year, I was hoping that marijuana federal legalization, even on the medical front only, before recreational maybe, would be a hot button topic in the debates for the presidential election or going into this election. Now, obviously, there are some more prominent things at the forefront, unfortunately,
That's
for the
right.
country. What's your gut feeling on the momentum of legalization, medical versus rec, federally? Like, what are your thoughts?
Well, one, I know where we're heading, right? And that's the important bit. There's fits and starts in all progress. And I know where voters are and where the public is, where, medical cannabis, is polling in the high 80s in approval and adult use in the mid 60s. There's few things in these polarized times that voters agree on more than that they want to see normalization of cannabis policy. So I know where we're headed. Certainly, this year we've seen, the past 2 years, this Congress, we've seen some real advancements, both with the MORE Act passing out of committee, as well as, bipartisan passage of the Safe Banking Act in Congress, as well as a whole list of, bipartisan co-sponsors of that Safe Banking Act in the Senate. We've also seen Vice President Biden put out his platform, which is a incremental step. It doesn't get us where I think we all want to be heading, but it is an important step along the way, which is giving more express protections to medical markets, expressly allowing to a greater degree, states to be able to incubate their own programs. So that means building industry, developing social equity programs. So I think we can take take incremental wins along the way, but ultimately, we're working towards the passage of a federal normalization measure. And so that's why we've been so enthusiastic about the MORE Act. Even if it can't pass the Senate in its current composition right now, it's an important signal, not just to the investors and business folks in here, but to citizens and enthusiasts in the cannabis community that we are seeing progress and changes coming soon.
Yeah, personally, I'm shocked that neither candidate, no matter what side of the fence you're on, doesn't matter. I'm shocked that neither candidate has jumped on marijuana legalization to get that vote because, like you said, it's overwhelmingly in support nationally of legalization. And I'm surprised that they haven't jumped on that to get that extra few points of voter base.
Yeah, I will say have also been very proactive in making sure that leading elected officials on both sides of the aisle are in possession of polling that shows it's an important issue for their voters. And I think we're seeing it in a generational measure too. So while, I think everyone knows the Democratic side and how much enthusiasm there are, leading Republicans, particularly young Republicans, that are pushing this issue, like Matt Gaetz, is probably about as conservative as you get in the halls of Congress. Well, he's an enthusiastic supporter of legalization. And so I think that sometimes our elected officials are a little bit slower to move than where the public's at, but we're going to catch up real quick in the halls of Congress.
It's interesting. We have a couple of different platforms besides the podcast. We own MJ.com, which has thousands and thousands of readers daily. And we have a large social media following. One of our pages is, a silly stoner meme page called Hits Blunt, but we have 3.3 million followers. And what we do is we post a lot of hot button topics on there about legalization, about the candidates and what they believe on it. And you'd be shocked. The amount of response we get is huge. The engagement jumps when we post something like that. And it's funny because it's a snapshot of the country, right? So we post something about Biden, about Trump, about Kamala Harris, whatever it is. We don't take sides. We just post their views. And the comments, besides making fun of everyone, because nobody likes any candidate these days, but the comments are that they will vote for whoever legalizes it. Like, that's what people actually think. That's why I think it's just a strategic move for one of them to jump on board. And like you said, it's surprising to me, but we can leave politics to the side for now, Adam. So tell us, Columbia Care, you told us how we ramped up to this year. Then all of a sudden, boom, the pandemic hits and everyone's life changes. Everything's virtual. Everything's, maybe not in person. How has Columbia Care adapted, and what have you seen as far as order flow and business flow?
Well, let me say that, through that, what is still a very difficult period of time, we were deemed essential service in almost every one of our markets. And that really meant that policymakers, which is a huge change, right, Len? Who could imagine 5 years ago that during a global pandemic that the cannabis industry would be deemed essential? So you can really see even in there how much attitudes have changed. That led us to continue operations. Obviously, like anyone operating in this, it's very difficult, but we have an important mission to serve. And in many of our markets, that's serving some folks that are suffering from really difficult, debilitating illnesses. And so we take that charge seriously. So our team members are, at our dispensaries and cultivation facilities every day to fulfill that. So we obviously saw some ups and downs in sales. And certainly, I think at the beginning, people were making sure that they had, the medicines or the product that they needed on hand. And then we've seen it, although over the last few months, just continue to ramp up. And I think there's a number of reasons for that, is that people are increasingly looking for a product that helps them live a better life. And so I think if anything, through COVID, we've seen more and more patients and customers come to us. I think that obviously the economic situation as a whole, is difficult on any business. And I can't say that it hasn't been challenging for Columbia Care like everyone else, but I think we all get up every day and try to do better. And I think the company has come through this, thankfully, for all those involved, stronger than when we came into it.
Was pre-COVID, was delivery a silo of Columbia Care or not? And is it now?
It certainly was. And it depends on the state though, Len, right? Some markets allow it and some don't. But what we also saw was not only being deemed essential, but regulators in these states started to, if they didn't allow delivery in New Jersey, they started to push delivery and they wanted us to serve patients. Or we've gotten really good at curbside pickup and order ahead. Virtual care, which Columbia Care has rolled out in many of our markets now, allows a person to actually do a video, kind of FaceTime measure with a customer service agent inside of the dispensary. So even if you're outside in the parking lot and don't feel comfortable coming in, or you're at home and you want more help on that online order before it gets delivered to your house, you can now, really look at those products up close and personal. And that's been a great and fantastic development that, I'll be honest, I don't know, without COVID, maybe we wouldn't have done it and we wouldn't have seen such great adoption.
Yeah, this year has involuntarily proven a lot of different business models, which is also interesting for the entrepreneur and all of us. It's interesting to see people adapt and pivot and still succeed in a really tough time.
And we're all going to be better for it. Customers and patients are going to be better for it, and ultimately our businesses too. So that's the silver lining of a very difficult time that we're all going through.
And I don't know if this next question is in your wheelhouse of expertise or not, but the different states that you're in, like you're in Florida, correct?
That's right.
So Florida is a vertical license where all facets of the cannabis circle, if you will, are under one license, where in California, let's say, you can, get a distribution license, delivery license, or grow license separately. Have you seen, what's the ease or difficulty of each different state in that regard?
I'll say this, I don't want to necessarily second guess the reasons, because each state did have a reason for the way that they wanted to set up their program. I think there's benefits to, each one of those. Certainly in Florida, one of the benefits is that you're not, during a difficult period in time in a pandemic, you're not reliant upon a bunch of other areas of a vertical that may not be able to supply you or keep their operations running. And so that's been a benefit in a market like Florida, that we've been able to ensure that our production all the way from seed to sale is in line. And that's why I think we've done so well there. But you also mentioned California, and on the same, the other side of the coin, it also has offered us flexibility in a market like California to adjust and concentrate on the parts of the supply chain that, that we do best. But I know that each one of these markets over time is going to be making decisions on what that makeup looks like in the long run. And ultimately, we're quite supportive of, the all of above, all the above. If someone wants to be in each piece of the vertical, great. If they want to concentrate in one element of it, that's great too. And I think that offers entrepreneurs flexibility and gives consumers and patients the benefit of having companies that are nimble and able to do what they think they do best.
And have you seen any sort of data showing in the states that you're in where medical and recreational are legal, are customers of Columbia Care leaning more towards medical sales or recreational sales?
Well, I'll tell you this. In Massachusetts, for instance, which deemed medical essential as it's a medicine, but adult use sales not, we saw an interesting measure, which was that many customers that are using cannabis for a health, wellness, or a medical reason maybe didn't have a medical card because they were able to service it over the counter. And so what we saw there was a rush, and thankfully allowed by virtual doctor's visits, of those customers going into a physician and getting a certification to treat their condition. And we can see some benefits out of that. If more people are visiting a healthcare practitioner to talk about what's ailing them and they're finding that cannabis can help, we think all the better. But generally across the country, studies that we've seen and a research partner of ours, we weren't part of this specific research project, but Albert Einstein Medical Center in New York did a study that found that at least 68% of customers in adult use are actually using cannabis for, again, a medical health or health and wellness need. And so we kind of don't distinguish almost to a certain point, what that customer or patient is coming in, because their journey is all similar. People that want to live better lives.
Yeah, it's just such an interesting industry to really try and capture and get your hands around because it changes so rapidly. So tell everybody, what are the products that Columbia Care concentrates on, and where can our listeners find out more about your company?
Well, thank you for that question, because I think that's one of the things that Columbia Care we're proudest of, is making products, particularly in many of our medical markets, pharmaceutical quality products. So creams and balms and hard pressed tablets that you'll find throughout the country in our markets, from California to Florida to Illinois and all the way up to Massachusetts, as well as all the other products that you'd imagine. So whether that, great flower offerings in Florida, or our pre-ground flower in New York, or a lot of our edible products throughout the region, Columbia Care is doing it all. And at the same time, we're concentrating each one of those products in different segment areas of people. And the one thing that goes through all of it is quality and consistency, to make sure that when somebody picks up a Columbia Care product, that they know exactly what they're getting. And I think that's so important. And we're with consumers on that.
And where can listeners find out more about the company, website, social media, or any handles or website address you have?
col-care.com is the best place to go to find out more about, our CBD shop online, all of our dispensaries throughout the 16 states throughout the country that we are in, all of our brands, as well as more information for investors. Columbia Care is publicly traded, and we'd love to have folks part of our team.
Okay, great. All right. So before we finish up, Adam, give us something that concerns you and something that excites you about the industry in general.
Well, what concerns me is making sure that policymakers learn from the mistakes that states that have gone before us. So whether it's taxation policy in California or in Colorado, where we may be looking at bifurcating the medical and adult use market. Those are things that concern me. What I'm optimistic about and excited about, one is, Columbia Care, we're moving throughout the country, we're growing, and to be a part of a great team like this that's producing great products gets me out of bed every day.
Beautiful. Adam Goers, VP of Corporate Affairs for Columbia Care. Thank you so much for being our guest today.
Great to be with you, Len. Thank you.
All right.
Bye-bye.
And we will see everyone next time on the Pot.Live podcast. If you are into the recreational side of the cannabis industry, yes, stoners, I'm talking to you, then thepot.com is the online and mobile destination for you. That's right, THEPOT.com, thepot.com. Where else can you find the exclusive Pot Mate of the Month? Take a pot quiz and win prizes. Scroll through hilarious memes and jokes and check out the latest podcasts, news, and trends, all while having your own profile and voice in the pot.com forum. Visit thepot.com today and get lit.